Welcome to Finding Your Calling, Becoming the Identity Professional, talk by IDPro. I'm Janelle Allen. I'm a volunteer board member and treasurer of IDPro. We're the Industry Association of Identity Professionals. That's my volunteer position on the board. And my day job, I work for Cisco Systems, and I'm a product manager with Webex Identity. I personally have a couple of decades in the identity industry behind me. First of all, I'd really like to thank Identiverse for making this talk today available for us. Identiverse has been a really strong partner of IDPro and has been a great supporter of us. And I'd like to thank Andy Hindle for making this presentation slot available for us today. One of the things that I've personally witnessed is that identity is really more of a calling. How many of you have ever seen this? No one ever, right? It's never happened. Unless I'm wrong, has anybody in the room, can you put up your hand? Has anybody said these things? No. Well, one thing I can tell you is that the identity professionals that I know come from a whole many different diverse backgrounds. And most of us have come into this industry most likely through a job, okay? There isn't a lot of training in academia. I do understand that Lance Peterman does have a course in Charlotte, North Carolina at the university there. So if you're lucky and you go there, you might actually get to take a course in identity at a university. But most of us get it through a job. One of the things I notice is that through those initial jobs that we get in identity, the identity professional gets captivated. They really get focused on this identity problem. And they're so intent on it. And I just love this because this cat represents that. Just cannot see that. And so because of that, we tend to work on various problems of the identity solution, and the identity professionals will focus on maybe the identification or authentication or authorization. They're working on these various aspects of identity. We're all solving this identity problem, and it's this Gordian knot that we're always trying to solve. And if you love puzzles like I do, I'm a puzzle nut. It's wonderful because we always have a new puzzle in identity, and it seems like we're making improvements all the time, but there's always a new challenge out there. So one thing I've come to the conclusion of, identity is really not the profession you choose. It is the profession that chooses you, because once it's got you hooked, you're in it forever. And I've had a really wonderful career in identity, and it's been fantastic. And I've met so many great friends in this industry. One thing to keep note of is that we always, in identity, are talking about our users. And we always have a diagram like this. We've got the little three guys, and there they are. But we have to personify those users. They're humans. They're humans trying to solve a problem. This might be the persona of the sysadmin. They're trying to give people access to an identity system or something of that nature. But the face of identity is changing, and all of us who are parents are very well aware of our challenge trying to protect our kids online. And so our faces of the identity is changing, of who and how they're accessing our identity solutions are changing. Again, we have to solve for people that have different abilities and challenges like a blind person might have. And then the elderly. As we age, things change. And actually in yesterday's keynote, on the keynote stage, one of the gentlemen was talking about his dissertation about the woman who her thumbprint doesn't even exist anymore. And so we have to think about that when we're building our identity solutions. So there's always the human behind these problems. And we have to solve these challenges wherever they are. And also, with the networked with their networks, right? Your relationships change as well. And the way you have relationships with other people change, and the way that you share data with them also changes. And so we have to be aware of that with our identity solutions. So with that being said, becoming the identity professional, how do you get there? Well, I just mentioned it's really kind of hard. We've got one program at one university, which is fantastic. I hope we can carbon copy that and make that go around the world, and we all have that. We also have, vendor training, right? Vendors have training too. And in fact, many of us took that training. If you've been in the industry for a long time, there was not IDPro, and there was no body of knowledge, and there was no CIDPRO. There was only vendor training. And that vendor training was always very specific to those products. And you would understand very specific solutions with those products. And then you would kind of get the identity solution, the vendor neutral stuff on the sides. You kind of just learn that because they didn't speak to it very specifically. You might learn federation for ping federate, but you wouldn't understand the whole concept of federation necessarily. You'd kind of get that along the way. And so one of the things we can do, or one of the things that IDPro has strived to do, is really drive a community of identity professionals who are building the training for identity professionals. Training like the body of knowledge is what we've been building, and building certifications like CIDPRO. And one of the fantastic things about our community is that some of us have been working in this industry for so long. We've met the best in the business. We have the best people behind our certification programs. They've been doing it for years, back in the Sun Microsystems days and even Netscape days. They've been doing this for a very long time, and they are the best there is. And so we have that team that's helping us with our certification program. We have we have the best as far as I'm concerned, and she's not here today. She's talking in another talk parallel to ours right now. We have Heather Flanagan, who helps usher our body of knowledge research development, and she's our editor-in-chief as far as I'm concerned. She's just the best in the business. So those are the types of things you can do. You can support your local conferences. There's often IAM meetups near you, and it's important to try to support those groups that are getting together and be in that conversation. And again, join IDPro. We have a wonderful community, and it's really welcoming, and we love having your voices there. And we have a Slack channel and community where you never know what expert might delightedly answer your question on identity, and it might make your jaw drop because they might be the world expert in that technology answering you. Another thing that is important is to just meet and share your identity experiences with others. We all are facing somewhat similar challenges, but in different avenues. It might be medical, it might be transportation, or it might be telecommunications, because that's one of the areas I'm working in right now. It's really important to be able to do that. And the last thing, just stay curious, because you're captivated in this identity problem, and there's going to be something new for you to get behind. So the next important point is really, again, participate in this community. You can level up your skill sets beyond that. Again, join IDPro. We'd love to have you, but you can go beyond that and join other foundations as well. Get interested in the OpenID Foundation and what they're after, and the Kentera Initiative. Start presenting at conferences. It took me many, many years to have the courage to present at a conference. This is my only third presentation I've ever given at an industry conference, and it's because I'm a very big introvert. It's challenging for me to get out there. So thank you. So again, building that skill set and getting out there. And again, just continue to participate in our communities and just sharing your journeys. Stay evergreen and ever learning. The last thing I think that's really important to think about here is that we have the power to invent the future. And how do you do that in identity? Well, you start participating in the standards work that's happening, that's building our new technologies for identity on the internet. Groups like the OpenID Foundation, IETF, W3C, all of these groups have ways that you can interact with them. You can also patent and develop new technologies. Well, that's easy for you to say, Janelle. That's pretty intimidating. But there's always an avenue to develop new things on your own. And again, the IDPro community can help you guide you that way by just participating in conversations. What do you think about that? You never know. Sometimes at these industry conferences, things crop up, and a new standard gets envisioned. Like at 1 year at IIW, I understand, OIDC was the concept that started it as a nugget and became a thing. And so these things happen. One of the things is giving back by mentoring others. Again, we all come to this with zero background in how to learn or develop these identity systems, because there's hardly anything out there. So the only way that you can help others is by mentoring and giving back. And then again, participating with the body of knowledge in IDPro. If you're an identity expert, and there's many identity experts that are at this conference today, we need your voices, because we really are building this vendor-neutral, safe place to share this knowledge with others. And it's going to change the way we work within our community in identity. So you might be asking me, why, Janelle, why? I'm going to tell you, it's personal. These identity systems that we build, they stick around and they're very sticky. Samuel's dead, they say. Oh yeah. Well, no, these identity systems are around forever, and they have to service ourselves, our families, our children, and our future selves, like in 20 years from now, and we might have a different ability than we have today. They have to service us. So it's really personal. And that's the thing, I think, that brings us all together in keeping us captivated and motivated as identity professionals. We would love for you to join IDPro and your organizations. We are at booth 1335. The information about joining our organization is at www.idpro.org, and we would love to have you join our community, lend your voices to us, and help us build this world of identity. Thanks.